Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. Last night and this morning, I was able to watch the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast with AJ Styles, and I honestly can easily say that I think that AJ Styles had the best interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin that we've seen of any of the WWE Network podcasts throughout the years. Easily, the Vince McMahon one really broke the door open, which was followed by Triple H and John Cena. Stephanie McMahon, they were with Chris Jericho. We've had a lot of big names on there throughout the times, but honestly, to me, AJ Styles is such a you could tell that, a few times he corrected himself. Instead of calling himself a wrestler, he called himself an entertainer. That he's he's trying to do what WWE tells him to do, but the guy is so just truthful and just real as a person that the interview just went down so well. I mean, let's face it, it was a little bit weird in the very opening of the interview when AJ Styles was talking about his upbringing when he was father was a Marine, and his father was sort of I don't know to go into it. Just it was mean to him. He was just a little over the top. His father had a drinking problem. His father was, in AJ's words, abusive. He wasn't a bad dad, AJ said. That just was his style of parenting. Nobody's perfect, and it is what it is, and you learn from it, and that's what makes AJ Styles a better father today. It's sort of the same thing that I use in my life with my kids, trying to be a better dad than my dad was to me. It's not that my dad was a bad dad, but I just sort of look at it as, if your dad's ceiling is right here, this should basically be your floor to build upon for your kids to try and build for a better life for them. But I don't know, the AJ Styles interview was honestly very, very good, talking about him, getting his start in WCW. He was only there for a quick cup of coffee before WCW was sold, went out of business, whatever you want to say, and WWE chose not to pick up his contract from there. He went to an NWA, I believe it was the NWA 51st anniversary, where he wrestled against Christopher Daniels, and AJ Styles put over Christopher Daniels, basically saying that match is what basically built his career to the point where he was able to, provide for his family as an indie wrestler here in the United States, and going to Japan because of all of the buzz that was caught over this one match that AJ and Christopher Daniels had. And of course, everybody knows they built upon that. It was sort of the building blocks to TNA. Because of that match, he was called by WWE, offered a developmental contract that he turned down because WWE wanted him to move to Cincinnati. And basically his wife was in college at the time, and he wanted to be able to say that he was providing for his wife. He didn't want his wife to have to move back in with her parents, with them being married, him living in Cincinnati, her living in Georgia. He just didn't think that was the life that he wanted to leave, so he turned him down and just kept building upon what was going on. Shortly after that is when TNA opened, and he said that when he struck the deal with Jeff Jarrett when he was on a tour over in Australia, but I believe it was Worldwide All-Stars or something close to that, that he was the first guy to be signed to a TNA contract, but he only looked at it as a gig of wrestling on Wednesday nights, a night that he wasn't wrestling anyways, so it was just sort of like an extra payday to him, and he didn't really think he was going to be something. But you can really tell that in the interviews that AJ's done with TNA, he might have some bad feelings about how things ended, where basically they asked him to take a pay cut. But when he was talking about TNA, being built up to the point where, they started on the weekly pay-per-views, and from there it was bought out by Panda Energy. And when Panda Energy came in, they were able to bring in more money. And of course, from there, that's when they brought in Samoa Joe. That's when they brought in Christian. Christian led to Kurt Angle. And he kept on saying they were on the uprise. They were on the uprise, and they really were. When they were doing like Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe, I know that AJ Styles is the focus of this video, but when they were really doing those things, AJ had his own thing that was going on, but I really felt that TNA had a better roster than the brand split rosters that were on Raw and SmackDown. I wasn't 100% sure that they were running a better show, but I really enjoyed watching TNA at the time, and I really thought if they were ever going to do anything, it was at that time. To me, honestly, I think they ran Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe too many times. They ran it into the ground, And after that, it lost a lot of steam in what they were doing. But there was a short period of time when I thought they really could have capitalized on something and really blew it up. To me, honestly, when they did the match for all of the belts, they had like 12 belts between Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. That to me was the drawing the line in the sand that, like, hey, this is the moment when they sort of lost a lot of steam. It just was too much to me. It just should have been a match. Two guys go in there. Let's find out who the better guy is. But AJ really cared about TNA. I think AJ still really cares about TNA and the legacy that he made there. He talks about the fact that, a lot of the time he wasn't the main focus. When Stone Cold Steve Austin said that he was only a 3-time champion in TNA, I honestly didn't think that number was right. I thought that he would have held the title a whole lot more than that. But there was a lot of times when AJ wasn't the #1 guy, and he said that he didn't care. As well as whoever is on top is doing well, everybody else is going to be doing well. And basically, you can't be on top forever. And you got to pass the ball off to somebody else, and you can't just sit on top and look at everybody else down below. I've always been very positive over the angle that AJ Styles ran, with him sort of being the dark guy going up against Aces and Eights, and it looked like he was going to join Aces and Eights, and then it was like copying the Sting gimmick of Sting versus the NWO from back in the day in WCW in 1997, and I really liked it. And then honestly, to me, my dropping point with TNA is when AJ. It wasn't even when AJ left the company, because I still had faith that he was coming back. But it never happened, and I think I got to the point where I was like, wow, this guy's not coming back, and that's when I just sort of stopped tuning in every week. From there, AJ Styles went and wrestled in Japan, which was a big deal because he took over the Bullet Club from Finn Balor, and right off the bat beat Okada for the New Japan Championship, and for there, he wrestled 2 great years before basically deciding that he wanted to get back home. He was spending too much time away from his kids. He was told by somebody in the company that Triple H was going to give him a call. Triple H never gave him the call, and after about a month, he started having conversations with TNA, which, if you can remember back in January when TNA released a statement about AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, and Machine Gun Carl Anderson, all basically telling TNA that they had a deal and they were going to sign with them, and then backing out to sign with WWE. A lot of people were negative on TNA, but I guess AJ is really sort of backing up that story, that it was true, that they did have conversations and that they were close. But when WWE calls, when Triple H calls, that's the big leagues, that's the big stage. And he took a chance and he jumped. He made that debut at the Royal Rumble, which, for a lot of people is going to be just one of the best moments from that Rumble. Well, that Rumble was so good, man. Roman Reigns coming in #1 with the championship on the line. AJ Styles debuting at #3. Triple H coming out. I think he was number 30, but I'm not quite sure. Triple H throwing out and eliminating Roman Reigns. Him and Ambrose having that sort of long match before Triple H eliminating him and becoming the champion. It's always going to be one that I always remember. He talked about his match against Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. His kids were upset that he didn't get the win, and he had to explain to his kids that even though he didn't get the pin and he didn't get the actual win in that match, that he actually won. Being able to wrestle in front of 100,000 fans there was a big deal. And he says that he wasn't the main attraction, but he was an attraction, and he takes a lot of praise in the fact that they sold that place out. So the guy's been killing it. He's wrestled against Roman Reigns in main events on Payback as well as on Extreme Rules. Just had a big match at Money in the Bank against John Cena. It's only going to get brighter from here from AJ Styles. So I think it was one of the best interviews we've seen from Stone Cold Steve Austin or Chris Jericho or Mick Foley, any of those guys on the WWE Network. I thought it was awesome, and I hope to see more like these in the future.